All right, welcome back to a special episode of Call It Both Ways. Today we've got two very special guests with us, two young officials from our area. Austin Schluterman and Trenton Baker have both agreed to hop on and let us ask them a few questions and learn a little bit about their experience early on in officiating. So both of you, appreciate you guys for joining us. First of all, how's the season been so far for both of you? Trenton, you can start.
It's been all right. I mean, pretty fast, like usual. I mean, we're halfway done already. So that's
Already.
good.
Austin, what about you?
It's been great. I've got to call as much as I wanted to, but as what I have, it's been nothing short than amazing.
I think AJ knows a little bit about that with some of the availability issues and life happens, and whether it's work or whatever you're doing,
Yeah.
sometimes we don't get the calls as often as we want. I don't know about you guys, but if it wasn't for our Christmas break tournament games and things like that, after about 3 or 4 days off, even after a busy week, I'm like, I'm ready to get out and go to a gym and do something.
Yeah,
That's right.
definitely.
All right, so our very first question I've got for you both, and since there's multiple of us in here, Trenton, we'll let you go first, and Austin, you can follow him up. Tell me where you guys are from, a little bit about yourself and what you do for a living outside of officiating.
Well, I'm from Old Arkansas, which is a town of not much, 2 gas stations. That's about it. If I ain't officiating, it's usually, uh, I have a few buddies, keep my circle kind of small, and just spend a lot of time with my dad. And I don't really do a whole lot besides just go out every other weekend or something, go get a drink with the guys, you meet on the road for this stuff, and that's usually what it's all about. But that's about it.
Very cool. What about you, Austin?
I'm from Subiaco, Arkansas, and currently living in Farmington, though, because I took a new job for working at Walmart. So I work at one of the stores up here in Fayetteville. Pretty blessed to do that. Pretty blessed that they allow me to still be able to officiate on the side, too. So
That's what I think a lot of people don't realize is how much we finagle with work with our jobs. Everybody's a little bit different. I'm fortunate enough to work at home, but for people that work a typical job like you guys do, it's not as easy to get off and make it to ball games on time.
absolutely, there's a lot of sacrifices made.
I agree.
Absolutely.
And I would say kind of what you talked about, Trent. One of the best things about you talk about going out, hanging out with buddies and stuff, getting a couple drinks here and there. That's one of the best things that comes with officiating. I don't know if y'all would agree or not, but just the people you get to meet, the friends you get over the years, and kind of the experiences, and just being on the floor is fun, but it's also good to have good friends that have your back off the floor too.
Routery is
Definitely.
definitely a perk.
Definitely.
And I just kind of onto that, we're talking about what you do for a living. What got you both into officiating? Austin, you can go first, and then kind of carry it over. What made you want to do it?
So there's a good story on mine though. Of course, growing up playing it, and then the love of the game for one. But going to school at Arkansas Tech and wanting to still kind of be involved with the sports, I kind of took a campus job working for Intramurals, and somebody that you and I know by the name of Kerry Shannon. I used to work for him, and he really, really hounded me into trying to get out in the community, and he got me together with a couple of people that really I was able to take it off and loved it ever since.
There you go. Awesome. What about you, Trenton?
I mean, I never thought I'd ever put that shirt on, if you want my honest opinion. I mean, just because, over the years of playing, and my dad always knew, Kenny, Gary Lovin, and all them just from over the years. And I remember always talking to Kenny on the court and stuff like that, but I never really drew my mind to do that. And then I guess, when I graduated, I wanted something to do besides where I wouldn't have to go to a job that I hated every day and, just have no meaning. So I decided to give that a shot. And I remember the very first time I went to a first clinic in Hot Springs. I rode with Kenny and a few others. And I just knew from that ride that this was going to be fun. And then, you look now, and I couldn't imagine my life without it.
Yeah,
That's
that's
pretty cool.
awesome.
That's a
awesome.
very good segue into our next question. Mentorship is something we talk about a lot on the show. We both had, I think, anybody in officiating. I can't think of anybody I've ever met that has done this on their own. We've all had people that have helped us along the way, whether it's from the beginning, in the middle, where you're at now. If you want to drop a name, you can, but talk about what mentorship has meant to you early on, and maybe if you want to mention some specific people that have helped you along the way so far. Trenton, you can go first.
I mean, mentorship in this, I mean, I think it can go a long ways. There's a lot of good names out there that we could say, you know. I mean, I'm not trying to, pull favorites or anything like that in case whoever watches this, gets mad at me or something like that,
That's
but,
true.
I mean, really there's two big names that come into my mind when the reason I got into this sport, that's been there, like, pretty much through the whole journey that I can call them. I can text them, they'll answer. It was one of my first games I ever worked, or was my very first game, was Ronnie Hance.
Mm-hmm.
And he don't ref anymore. And, I kind of lost touch with him for a few years. And I had a guy hackle me in the crowd, about earlier a few months. And I was like, this dude just keeps yelling at me. I just, and usually we can block it out. And I'm like, but I've heard that voice. And after the game was over, I looked up and it was him. And it's, like not seeing him for so many years, it kind of just brought like, a tear to my eye, just because he was with me, I remember my first game when a coach came after me, if it wasn't for him, I probably never would have came back just because of how scared they was. And then the other one would probably be just, I mean, people can say what they want. I think the world of the guy, and that's Kenny Aiken. I mean, just without him and his angry demeanor out there, like I couldn't get through a game, just it just gets me fired up when he's fired up, so
I think
just
anybody that
mentorship
knows
would,
Kenny is better off for it in officiating.
yes. And just the mentorship, you got names out there like Grant Watts, Trey Pryor, Eddie Enlow was a big one that took me to my first regional, and that meant a lot to me. Trey gave me my first regional championship. And so there's a lot of good guys out there that's helped me come this far, and I couldn't be more grateful for that.
Awesome. Austin, what about you?
I mean, absolutely. Just like what he said, there's just so many names that I could easily name right now. And like I was telling him, I said for me it was Kerry Shannon who really threw me out in the water right now, and then Kenny Aiken was actually one of the ones that helped watch me as well. I've had some great people like Scott actually helped me a lot. Randy Ballard's helped me. Grant's helped me. And these are all just guys that, I mean, to this day, I mean, I may have 5 years or more under my belt, but I could probably still call them, 15 years down the road. And I could probably say, hey, watch this clip of me and say, what do you think of this? Or, hey, can you watch this game? Or, hey, what do I do in this situation? These are just guys that no matter what, they always want the best for you. And I mean, they're fun to watch. They're fun to watch on the court. They're fun to riff with on the court, and they're also fun to talk with outside the game. So I couldn't be more blessed with those people in my back pocket.
I agree.
A thing I want to add before we change the subject on that is just because I know he'll watch it, I know he'll get irritated if we don't, and that's just I can't forget Kelly Roach. Just because
right, yeah.
that man
Kelly
is
the
a big
R
part.
Roach. You can't forget him.
Can't forget him, or Big Daddy Dan, Primary Dan Burrows, or Barry Winnington. Those three right there always got a lot of leadership in them, and without them, as much hassle as it is having to hear the same stuff a lot, but they've helped us grow a lot. And, especially Kelly, anytime I see Kelly in the gym, it's I'm like, all right, if I mess up, Kelly going to find a reason to talk to me at halftime. So, I got to stay on point.
That's right.
That's right.
Those are good ones,
you gotta
too.
love it about those guys.
I haven't gotten to know them as well. I've gotten to work some games, but just from working games, you can tell those are the type of vets that you want to be on the floor with for sure. That especially early on, those are the kind that, like you mentioned, Trenton, if you mess something up, inevitably that's going to happen, even to veteran officials at times. But especially when you're first starting out, it's a great feeling to know those people that are on the floor with you and have your back.
Yeah. Hey, when you talk about messing stuff up, I've learned plenty from going to camp. Okay.
Yeah.
And that's where I'm going next. Is tell me about camp. What was it like? What was the impact? I know you both went to camp this last summer. So to anybody that might be new or hasn't went to camp, or how much do you feel like it helped? What do you think?
Man, definitely, like, for me, it was really an eye-opener for me. It's yeah, I can it's good to know that I understand the game and stuff, and they've said, "You got a great knowledge for the game. Your basketball IQ is good," but it's the little things that they kinda showed me that I need to be looking out for. They really, really nitpicked a lot of stuff that I did that anybody else would like. I mean, like I said, I've been calling with them for years. They probably wouldn't have noticed it. And these are guys that they're a step up in the collegiate level to where they want you to be in the collegiate level. They're going to tell you what you're doing wrong, what you need to work on. And I got a good notebook still at home. Actually, I just never realized it's actually in my bag, my reffing bag. I look at it when I can to try to refresh myself what I need to be looking at. My pregame is totally different now because I've always tried to be short, sweet, to the point. Well, there's some things that I missed in my pregame that they told me that I missed on. How I look at the game from a different level has changed, and I feel like how I officiate this year has been totally different. I feel like I've called a lot better this year.
That's awesome. What about you, Trent?
I mean, I called you
Yeah.
that day or day after, I mean, Kyle didn't ever hear that conversation, I did tell Austin I called you, but no, that camp scared the crap out of me. Like, I mean, it definitely wasn't like, a bad thing. It was an eye opener, but like I told AJ that I wanted to go home. Like the first day, like I just wanted to go back to the house. Like this is, just because I just didn't expect that. But the way I look at it is I took a lot from it and definitely helped me out a lot this season just because with the I definitely feel more like I can be the leader role on a game that's tight and I'm not gonna panic at the end. Like, yes, we're gonna miss stuff here and stuff there, but I know I can control it. And a big thing they went over is like Austin said with the little things. Mine was a big thing with the throw up. Um I got critiqued on that, and I never really paid attention to that, and so they got me for that. But hearing different things, and like I told you, there was one guy in Pacific. I don't really for sure remember what his name is. I have it wrote down, but he was on me the whole weekend, and I mean, I could not control like how I did it, and so like that. But it made me better in the long run, and I definitely have learned tremendously a lot of stuff from the camp, and I think my mechanics are better, my IQ for the game. One thing they did like about me is they said they like my demeanor because it don't change, and even when a coach is very hostile, and we see that a lot. But it was a fun experience. I enjoyed it. Pretty better the second day. I definitely felt a lot better about myself. But it's helped me out a lot, and I appreciate that.
Love to hear that. Love to hear that. And I understand that feeling of wanting to go home because you get so much, especially you go year after year, and there's a lot of people that don't want to go to camp. They think that they might be wasting money or they think it's not needed. But truth be told, we can always get better. We're never going to be perfect. We're always going to miss plays, like you said. We're always going to have situations that come up. But I'm glad you stayed. I'm glad that you stuck with
Well,
it.
I'm glad I stayed
Oh
too.
yeah, definitely.
And the last thing I'd add to that is that, like Austin said with the pregame stuff, I used to hate being the R. I hated talking, and I just could not stand it. And so this year, Trey's gave me like 80% of my games I've been the R, and I was just like, dude, I'm getting tired of this because I don't want to talk. Even when I'll be like, I'll see Barry on there or Kelly, and I'm still the R, and I'm like, dude, this is baloney. And then like at Ozark in that Christmas turn we talk about, Brandy Ballard was the R, and he said, "Hey, give me that ball down," and I was like, "All right," and he said, "All right, guess what? You're the R," and I was like, "Oh my!" I mean, just the little things like that. But and Brandy, was a guy there that critiqued us, watched us over the weekend. With his leadership role was he wanted me to see how I do talking since then, and my pregame I feel like has gotten 10 times better. Like I don't sit there and stutter. I get to the point, but also I feel like the engagement I have with the coaches, they take me more like serious with what I say now, just because I'm not sitting there not knowing how to correct what I'm going to say or sitting there just trying to think. I'm pretty stern with what I say and, stuff like that. So I appreciate that too.
Good.
I
Good.
think
You'll
it's
take
important too because a good pregame like that. I used to be the same way. I don't want to talk. I just want to, hey, sportsmanship, hills with loose balls. Let's get out of here. But I think you're literally setting the tone for the game. Like they can understand. And I don't know. Sometimes they're off in no la la land looking around. But if they're paying attention and you're actually talking about things that matter, you're setting the tone for the game. They realize it by the way you talk to them. Hey, he's taking this thing serious. They're gonna let us come talk to him if they have questions and things like that. They know the standard we expect for the way they act and the way they play. And the same thing for coaches. I know it can get monotonous because we do the same thing every Tuesday and Friday night for the most part, but I would also look at that, Trenton, as those opportunities are being given to you because you've done the things you've done, going to camp and implementing those things, and you've gotten better.
Definitely. Yeah, I would agree.
All right, and then moving on. So what's something you would say, we've talked about some of your experiences so far, and you guys are 5 or so years into officiating, something like
This
that?
is 9 for me.
9, my bad, Trenton. So what's something you would tell to a brand new official, looking back now, thinking about your own experiences? If somebody brand new came in, what's the first thing you would tell them?
Somebody new came in. I've actually worked with some new guys. Just ask questions. Don't be afraid to blow your whistle. Keep your demeanor, the same. Don't change it, no matter the outcome of how crazy a game gets. Have patience, and just because the crowd gets crazy, a coach gets crazy, don't give up. Just keep practicing, watch videos, work on your mechanics, and listen to your mentors above you. And this can be something that could last a lifetime for you.
Definitely, 100%. Like for me, I work with some new ones myself as well, and it's always been for me. It's like, man, film is your best friend. I said I've watched film like crazy. I've told them stories about me. I've also I told you I've sent you videos many times. I said, "Dude, I feel like I've called a crappy game here. Will you watch it?" I'm tired. I just can't pick myself apart. So I tell them, I said, don't be afraid to send film to friends, and never be afraid to ask questions, because at the end of the day, I said, we all learn. I said, I'm in year 5, and I know I'm still learning some stuff. I'm sure y'all are too. So you're going to be continuously learning. So just stick with it, and watch yourself. Practice in the mirror as well. With your mechanics and stuff. So good mechanics, strong whistle can definitely cover up not knowing what you're doing.
Be confident.
Exactly.
Be confident. And always been told, like, as long as you got a strong whistle, you're not sitting there, you know what you're going to say. Most of the time, even if you're dead wrong and you sell it, no coach is going to argue with you. Or if they do, it's not going to be very long. And then, of course, like Austin said, looking in the mirror, I learned that from AJ specifically. AJ said that years ago to me, and I use that probably too. Every new guy I see, I say, hey, this might sound stupid. You might look at me like I'm stupid, but look at the mirror and practice your mechanics. And then, of course, like we talked about with the film thing, if there's anything, a few buddies of mine that don't ref ask me all the time, they're like, what are you doing? And I'm like, I'm watching film. And they're, like, why? And I'm like, just because, I feel like that's helped me out a lot. And even, because like I'll even call Austin. I'll be like, hey, I found this game, blah, blah, blah here, or I'm watching this dude here. And, and it's just crazy what you can find. And, and I've had guys I watch myself, watch what I need to fix myself. And then I've also watched guys that's helped me become better as official myself.
One of the best ways to learn, watching other people. Watching your own film is a big one, obviously. You can see the things that you feel like, Austin, you said, I had a bad game after this. I can watch it afterwards. Most of the time, that's not the case. And I can attest to a somewhat important game that AJ and I worked about a week ago. There was literally one play at the end of the game, and I was just down on myself for a good 2 days. But you watch film, you get better about it, and you move along. That's all we can do.
Well, see, like for Austin, I told him last year I had a game, like I watched that game like 4 or 5 different times, and I could not critique myself and what I was doing wrong. So I ended up sending him the whole game. I said, just tell me.
Yep.
And
best way to go about it. And I even
Absolutely.
had a conversation with the coach that play kind of went against that night just because I felt that bad about it. It didn't change the game or anything like that. Just not something that needed to be missed in that game. And because of reaching out like that, so sometimes it's not always the best idea, but at times that can get you a lot of credibility because people just know you care.
Absolutely. That's
A lot of people
Hey,
assume from
but
the
a lot
stands
of
that we
people
have
don't see that.
ideas of what we're going to do, that we have decisions to be made before we get to the game, which never happens. But a lot of times when people realize you care, that goes a long ways.
Well,
Go
see, and
ahead, Trenton.
a lot of people don't see that either too, though, because of course, we like to see the videos. Everybody gets a crackle out of seeing, oh, dude gave him a technical tonight, or Austin got him tonight. Funny stuff. But what people in the crowd also don't see is that not just that we're human beings too, and we're going to make mistakes, but a lot of these coaches, like when we see them out in public, like we have a good bond with them too. Like it's not just, the refs are together and that's it. There's several coaches that I would do anything for them. I mean, I talk to them on the street, they'll shake my hand, they'll make time to talk to me for a minute. And that's what it's all about too. Like if you don't have that relationship that you can actually go in the gym and have a bond with a coach and not just walk in there and be like, oh, I can't stand this dude, like I mean, that helps your credibility too going forward. It's not just getting your name out there, but also, if a coach can respect you too and likes to see you, that can help. You never know if that later on in life, with however your life goes, or even just reffing, I mean, a big game like y'all been through, that that coach could have a big say in that.
And that
Yeah,
could come in
I think
handy with some game in the future, whether it's a random regular season game or you catch them in playoffs when it really matters and you've got one they didn't like. That could go a long ways in how they react to that call.
absolutely.
I'd say that
Absolutely.
goes with your demeanor you're talking about too. Just always having that good demeanor, professional.
And I can even
that-
attest, you mentioned relationships outside, like off the floor with some of those coaches. A lot of people know about my girls being in and out of the hospital the last 3 or 4 years a lot. I've had coaches reach out, buy meals, pay for nights in a hotel, just stuff like that. You never know where those relationships go off the floor.
Definitely.
Absolutely.
Speaking, and you kind of mentioned it a second ago, but talking about postseason, what's it been like for you? You guys have both worked a little bit of postseason now at this point.
Yeah, I believe it'll be specific. Trenton, I believe you were as a regional final you mentioned.
I've worked the regional final and I've worked 3 regionals altogether.
Awesome. And Austin,
I worked one regional and one regional final.
that's awesome.
So what's it been like? I mean, what was that experience like for somebody that?
No, sorry. I'm sorry. I was wrong. I worked 2 regional finals now and 3 regionals.
There you go. There
Awesome.
you go.
Don't forget, pad the stats.
These
That's
pads
right.
are pads. We all
Hey,
know.
hey, people might laugh about it, but I have it wrote down in my room. I have it wrote down. Everything I achieve, I like to scratch
should.
it off the list every
You
time.
should. Those are goals. So what was that like though for your games? So walking out on the floor pregame, those are different kinds of nerves that people don't realize
dude,
when you haven't done
I
that
can
before.
tell you when I first got my first regional, Eddie Enlow requested for me from Jason Harris because we're not in that region because he's in the Little Rock direction. So I went down there, and of course I know all Eddie's guys. I've worked with them. It was definitely some different kind of environment. I mean, besides like seeing a lot of teams I've never seen in my entire life, don't even know where it is. But it just the environment, like you said, is very different. And then I had my first year was a 3rd place game, and it was sold out in there. I mean, it just blew me away. And then you fast forward, I had regionals at Hector, and Hector and Mansfield just was a battle every time they played each other. Like it was 2 big teams for the girls' side. And Trey Pryor was our crew chief that week. And so I was talking to everybody all week, and and I was like, man, like I felt like honestly, you feel good about games you work and games you don't.
Mhm.
And I definitely feel like, and this is just what I told some others there, I definitely felt that week at regionals at Hector was the best I've ever called, ever.
That's
Like
awesome.
I
Hey, it's the
definitely
best
felt
time to show
great
up and show
all
out too.
week. All week I felt like nobody's better than me out there. And that's just that chip I wanted you to knock off my shoulder. And I got the girls final, and it was just, I've never seen such one side all blue, one side all red, just like cannot hear yourself think in there, and just, I loved every second of it, and I was with Eric Carlson and Dan Burrows, and, I won't ever forget that. And then you fast forward, this one also hits a little more to home, but, we went to Huntsville last year for regionals, and I was with Austin for his first one. And I mean, like we talk about, these relationships, and stuff like that. It's what matters. And I got to be a part of Austin's first regional, but also he got the regional final, and I got to be with him on that. And to me, that with as good of friends we are, that meant a lot to me. More than yes, I enjoyed being there, but I was more excited for him, than to be the part of it to share it.
That's really cool. It goes back to the big thing we talk about with all of this. It's the relationships that we make off this stuff. AJ and I've talked about a lot. We all have dreams of moving up. We both want to work Division I game someday. If he gets it before me, you bet I'll be on SeatGeek in 2 seconds behind the seat because I'm going to be there.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's the coolest part of this stuff is that we get these relationships, and those things go, like we talked about earlier with coaches, those go further than just the games that we go call together. Those are relationships off the floor as well.
What about you, Austin? What about you?
Definitely, as like it. Like when I got the phone call from Mike Dunn for my first being selected for the regional, don't get me wrong, I was excited. I said everybody knew. I was like, I called you, Austin. Trent got it. I knew Trent got it because he got the same day, same call I got, and man, I was just excited about it. And then the day came when I got there. It was all good. It was like another normal day. But the second I walked out on that court, I was like, it was my first game calling basketball again. I had those butterflies. It was all, stomach was in my throat, and it was. But once I got that first whistle under my belt, I was like, all right, I'm good to go. And I had a great, great week. I said the friends that I made up there, it was a blast to being able to be with somebody that I knew, but also I made new friends as well. And it was constant, awesome. That's all it really was. And then
That's awesome.
Then the atmosphere was totally different than anything that I was used to. And then getting selected for that championship, and then being told that I was going to be the R in that regional championship, it meant a lot. It really meant a lot. So to me, it just felt like everything that I worked for this year I did what I needed to do. And then it just gave me something else to fight for this season. So
you've both absolutely earned it for one. So those were not just given because you know somebody or your Brown knows somebody. Those were all of the things you both have mentioned were absolutely earned.
Yep. And I talk about that. You talk about the butterflies in your stomach or getting nervous. It still comes. It doesn't go away, especially those later games. But the thing is, once you hit that first whistle, it's just back to another game,
another ball
game, another gym.
Absolutely.
No, it happens every year. That very first game I go out there, Joe, I blow that first whistle, I can't breathe.
Absolutely. Which I mean, like I get those even, and sometimes in games that are not even playoff games, because like we'll all get we probably get all of our season games throughout the season, like early on, and you'll see these matchups that I had a matchup earlier this season. I had circled on my date, and I made sure I was off of work. I had the next day off because I knew I was going to need it to recover. And I had that date circled all the time. And the second I walked on that court, I was like I was in a championship game again because I knew it was a big game.
I think if the butterflies ever go away, whether it's a game like you just mentioned or even playoffs, it's probably time to hang it up.
Absolutely.
If you're not nervous, I'd say that probably means you don't care.
At that point, you don't care. Exactly.
Yep. All right, so last question before we wrap things up. We've kind of talked about you guys' resume and what you've gotten to do recently. Now what's next? Well, what are your goals for even this season and then some bigger picture goals moving on in officiating? Trenton, you want to start that one off?
Well, for first, I want to be, just something I've always looked at from, hey, of course, I met you down the road, and then I knew AJ for years from yelling at him to joining, blah, blah, blah. And so, and of course, I've always known Ryan my whole life. And probably, just, like I would say I'd like to get to where y'all guys are at, but also, I always tell my dad that I want to be a young guy out there that nobody ever forgets. Like Trent was a good one, even if when that day comes, I want them to, remember me as, that dude wasn't a prick. Like, that dude was a good ref. He was a good dude, and stuff like that. And the connections you have with the coaches and stuff like that. Like, I always want to be remembered on top, not on the bottom. And so taking that forward, I'd like to, my next goal, which I tell Austin all the time, is Jason has threw me in the head a couple years for a state tournament, and that probably is the tear come down your eye, the phone call I'm waiting for, is to say that I'm on there. I go every year regardless. I go watch a state tournament. I'll take off, and I'll go watch, but I'm ready for, that phone call so, I can be there, with some of the greats, and so know I did this, know. And so that's what I look forward to the most.
If it makes you feel any better, there are 4 of us in this interview, and only one of us has worked a state tournament or state final.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
Several.
I'm still hoping for that phone call as well this year,
definitely.
15 years in.
I've been lucky. We won't talk about that though.
Austin, what about you?
You have been blessed. That's true.
So go back to like what Trent said, something that we always talk about every year, even before season, is we kind of talk about what we accomplished the season before, and we write down kind of our goals for this season and even the ones for the future. One of the things that I've said is I wanted to be able to go up and be able to call the collegiate level, whether it's JUCO, D3, D2, even up to D1, and be able to say that I'm done that. Another thing I said, the state tournament's great, and the state championship is also great, but I want to be able to set a legacy as well, because there's not a lot of people from our area that do this on the collegiate level, and the only person I've actually ever truly met that's called D1 was Don Daly, and great official. But other than that, I was like, I'd like to be able to say that I've moved up and done something like that out of a little tiny small town of CB. So be able to set a legacy and continue to grow and, be the best official I can be for these kids as well. So definitely.
I like that.
I think that's something your typical fans and people that don't do what we do don't really think about, that we even have goals as officials,
Definitely.
whether it's how far you want to make it in postseason, what level you want to go to, how long you want to do it, things like that. I think it's important to keep ourselves in the game as far as setting goals and things like that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Be the best official you can be, no matter what level that's at. No matter what level you end up at, always just be the best you can be.
Never change your demeanor or your character either, for nobody.
No.
Like keep it your way you are when you started. Because like if there's anything I learned from even talking, to fans and stuff like that, is what you see now is what you're gonna get afterwards. It's not, and then even for like work and stuff. My boss I had, Taylor, he was a fan in the crowd, comes to games, watch his boy play at Pottsville. He said, I like that, the same thing at work and the same thing on the court, your demeanor doesn't change.
Absolutely.
Right? No matter what happens, your demeanor is still the same. And cause there's times, that, we all know, a coach is on you, like, whoo, I'm fired up now, but you got to keep it, the way you want it to be, and keep your demeanor low. And that's stuff like that.
Don't ever stop learning either. I mean, you're going to continue to keep learning in this game, keep watching yourself in the film and stuff. So you can always get better. And no matter what.
I think the second you stop trying to learn and trying to get better is probably the second you stop improving and moving up.
Exactly.
You have to continue staying in the rule book, being knowledgeable of situations, and being ready for anything that happens. As soon as the ball gets thrown up, you got to be ready. And honestly, before that, as soon as we step on the floor that night.
Exactly. You got to be ready even before then.
Got to be ready.
Great. Well, that is all we have, guys. I really appreciate your time. I hope everybody listened and learned a little bit of something. It's not as scary as it may seem to be to jump into this. We've got 2 shining examples in the last 9 years for Trenton, 5 for Austin. You said a thing. Anybody, you can do it. It just takes taking that leap, surrounding yourself with other officials, and just kind of constantly trying to get better. So I appreciate you guys' time. Austin, if you have anything else to add?
No, biggest thing I would say is connect with both of us as we get towards the end of the season so we can talk more about camp again. Anybody else that watches this, camp. I'll always emphasize that. Go to another one this summer, even if it's the same one you went to last summer, or add a second one in if you've got the funds and the availability to do it, because networking is just as important as improving. And so the more
AJ
people
and I are both gonna try to go to that same camp that you guys went to in Oklahoma City. So if you go to the same one, you can watch us get our butts chewed out too. It's not just you guys.
That's right.
Good,
That's
dangerous
right.
stuff.
Oh, I had a fun one at our D2 camp this last summer. I had a 10 a.m. game first of the day, and I won't get into details, but I had gotten like 2 hours of sleep because there was an actual assault that happened at our hotel. Police called and everything, and
Yeah,
I refereed like I had 2 hours of sleep. I'll say that. And I just sat there, eye contact, and yes sir, yes ma'am. So that's the only thing you could do at that point. Nobody wants it. Yeah, but
Yeah.
Yeah. Note to self also, if you can get an Airbnb, VRBO, do that instead of a
best thing to
hotel.
do instead of going to a hotel at camp. Because sleep is important.
That was rough.
All right, before we let everybody go, we want everybody to know who our favorite sports officiating supply store is, and it is Sports Officiating Supplies. From Pee-wees to pros, Sports Officiating Supplies is your source for all things referee. We offer uniforms for 16 different states, as well as college apparel. Certified Smitty dealer, we offer a wide selection of uniforms for 8 different sports at competitive prices with personalized customer service. Owned and operated by active officials, we want you to make your first great call. Visit us online at sportsofficiatingsupplies.com. And if you haven't seen on our Facebook page, we've also got a giveaway going right now for a $50 gift card to Sports Officiating Supplies. So everybody that does what we do knows that our gear and accessories and everything are not cheap. So hop in that giveaway. If you guys have anything else, shoot us a message, anything you'd like us to cover in a future episode, we'd be happy to.